Captain Daniel Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched the stars shift through the viewport. After 30 years in the military, he thought nothing could make his hands shake anymore. He was wrong. The message from the Galactic Assembly had changed everything. 3 minutes until we drop out of faster-than-light travel. His navigator called out. Daniel nodded. Behind him, the diplomatic team waited in silence. Ambassador Kevin Harper stood with his hands clasped behind his back, trying to look calm. Dr. Laura Bennett sat at her station, reviewing alien language files for the 100th time. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez checked her security console, her jaw tight with tension. The message had arrived 6 months ago. It came in mathematical sequences first, then crude images, then finally words in broken English. The Galactic Assembly wanted to meet humanity. They called it an invitation. Daniel called it a summons. They found us before we found them, Amy had said when they first read the message. That bothers me. It bothered Daniel too. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 2 years ago. The Assembly claimed they had been watching Earth for decades. They knew everything about humans. Wars, weapons, nuclear bombs, climate disasters. They had seen it all. The Assembly's message was polite but cold. They called humanity newcomers to the galactic community. They said humans needed to prove their civilized nature. The words sounded friendly, but the meaning was clear. Humanity was on trial. Dropping out of light speed now, the navigator said. The stars stopped moving. Space returned to normal. And there, filling the viewport, was Concord Prime. Daniel had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. The station was massive, larger than any city on Earth. It gleamed like a silver jewel against the black of space. Hundreds of ships orbited around it, each one different. Some looked like crystals, others like living creatures made of metal. Sweet heaven, Laura whispered. There must be thousands of them. Thousands of ships, Amy corrected. Millions of aliens. Kevin stepped forward. This is good. This is what we came for. To meet new friends. To join the galaxy. Amy turned to look at him. Friends don't aim weapons at friends. What? Kevin moved to her console. Amy pointed at her screen. Those ships. Half of them have weapons systems active, targeting us. Daniel felt his stomach drop. You're sure? Positive. They're not hiding it either. They want us to know. Laura stood up from her station. This isn't a welcome party. This is a containment protocol. We don't know that, Kevin said, but his voice lacked confidence. Maybe it's just standard security. Standard security doesn't point guns at diplomats, Daniel said quietly. He opened a communication channel. Concord Prime Station, this is the Earth vessel Horizon. We're here for the scheduled diplomatic meeting. Static filled the bridge for several seconds. Then a voice responded. It sounded wrong. Like multiple voices speaking at once through a computer translator. Earth vessel Horizon. You are cleared to dock at Bay 17. All crew members will disembark. All weapons will remain on your ship. You will follow all assembly protocols without deviation. Failure to comply will result in immediate detention. The channel went dead. The bridge fell silent. Kevin's face had gone pale. That wasn't very diplomatic. No, Daniel agreed. It wasn't. Amy pulled up a scan of the docking bay. I'm reading heavy security around Bay 17. Armed guards, barrier fields, the works. They're treating us like criminals. Laura returned to her station and pulled up her research. I've been studying their message patterns. The linguistic structure shows clear hierarchy markers. They don't see us as equals. They see us as primitives who need to be controlled. Based on what? Kevin asked. We've developed faster-than-light travel. We have fusion power, quantum computers, medical technology that would have seemed like magic a century ago. Based on Earth, Laura said softly. She turned her screen so they could all see. I've been cross-referencing their terminology. When they say, Earth is a Class 10 world, that's not a compliment. It means death world, the most dangerous category. Daniel frowned. Dangerous how? Everything. Our gravity is higher than most species can survive. Our atmosphere has more oxygen, which they consider volatile. Our weather patterns are extreme. Our ocean pressure would crush most alien ships. And then there's the life. What about it? Amy asked. Earth life is aggressive. Predators, parasites, diseases that evolve to overcome immune systems. Most species in the assembly come from Class 1 through Class 4 worlds. Gentle planets with stable climates and peaceful evolution. Laura paused. They think because we survived Earth, we must be monsters. Kevin sat down heavily. They invited us here to judge us. Worse, Daniel said. They invited us here to control us, or eliminate us. We should leave, Amy said immediately. Jump to light speed and get out of here. We can't, Kevin said. If we run, it proves everything they think about us. That we're dangerous, untrustworthy, violent. And if we stay, Amy challenged, we show them they're wrong. Daniel looked at each of them. Amy, ready to fight. Kevin, desperate to make peace. Laura, trying to understand what they were facing. They were all scared. They were all out of their depth, but they were here, and billions of people on Earth were counting on them. We dock, Daniel decided. We meet with them. We listen to what they have to say. He looked at Amy. But we stay ready. If this goes bad, we leave fast. Amy nodded. I'll keep the engines warm. The horizon moved slowly toward the docking bay. As they got closer, Daniel could see the guards Amy had mentioned. They weren't human-shaped. Some had too many limbs. Others floated without legs. All of them carried weapons that glowed with an energy Daniel recognized. Plasma rifles. Each one powerful enough to cut through the horizon's hull. The ship settled into the docking bay with a soft thud. Magnetic clamps locked them in place. Daniel felt trapped. Atmosphere in the bay is breathable for humans, Laura reported. Temperature is comfortable. They've adjusted it for us. Small mercies, Kevin muttered. Daniel stood. All right. Diplomatic team with me. Amy, you have the bridge. If you don't hear from us in 6 hours, you get this ship home no matter what. Amy met his eyes. Yes, sir. The airlock opened with a hiss. Daniel stepped out first, followed by Kevin and Laura. The docking bay was enormous. Designed for ships 10 times the horizon's size, the metal floor was polished to a mirror shine, and waiting for them were the aliens. There were dozens of them. Daniel tried not to stare. One creature had scales like a snake and stood on 2 legs. Another looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. A third was covered in feathers and had wings folded against its back. The scaled one stepped forward. I am Vex Nor, Chancellor of the Galactic Assembly. You are the humans? We are, Kevin said, stepping forward with his hand extended. I'm Ambassador Kevin Harper, representing the people of Earth. It's an honor to meet you. Vex Nor looked at Kevin's hand like it was a weapon. He didn't shake it. Follow, Vex Nor said. The assembly is waiting. He turned and walked away. The other aliens formed a circle around the humans, like guards around prisoners. Daniel's hand instinctively moved toward where his sidearm used to be. But the holster was empty. They had left all weapons on the horizon as ordered. They walked through corridors of gleaming metal and strange lights. Other aliens stopped to stare at the humans. Daniel heard whispers in languages his translator couldn't process. He caught one word repeated in several alien tongues. It sounded like Deathworlders. Deathworlders. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. It was circular, with seats rising in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Hundreds of aliens sat watching. At the center was an open space where the humans were led. Vex Nor climbed to a raised platform. His voice echoed through the chamber. The assembly recognizes the species known as humans. You come from the planet designated Earth, a Class 10 death world. You have achieved basic faster-than-light capability. You request entry into galactic civilization. Kevin started to speak, but Vexnor raised a clawed hand. Before we proceed, you will see what we have learned about your species. A holographic display appeared above the humans. Images from Earth, cities burning, soldiers fighting, nuclear explosions, weapons of every kind. The worst moments of human history played out for the entire assembly to see. Daniel felt sick. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting. This was a prosecution. And humanity was already guilty. The images kept coming. Daniel watched his species' darkest moments displayed for alien judgment. World War II. The atomic bombs, chemical weapons, genocide. Every mistake, every crime, every moment of cruelty that humanity wanted to forget. Laura grabbed his arm. They've been watching us for a long time. Decades, Daniel confirmed. Maybe longer. Kevin's face had gone red. This is propaganda. They're showing the worst without context. The hologram finally stopped. The last image hung in the air. A mushroom cloud rising over a city. Vexnor let it linger for several seconds before speaking again. This is what you are. A species born of violence and death. You have destroyed your own kind. With weapons of mass annihilation. You have poisoned your own world. You wage war as naturally as you breathe. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Daniel saw fear in some alien faces. Disgust in others. Not one looked friendly. Kevin stepped forward. Chancellor Vexnor, with respect, you're showing only part of the story. Yes, humanity has fought wars. Yes, we've made terrible mistakes. But we've also built civilizations, created art, developed medicine, reached for the stars to spread your violence further. A new voice called out. A bird-like alien stood from its seat. Its feathers were bright blue, and its eyes were sharp as knives. I am Talorin of the Sketh Unity. We have studied your species extensively. You are apex predators from a world of constant death. You evolved to kill. You spread across your planet by destroying everything in your path. Now, you want to spread across the galaxy. That's not true, Laura said, her voice steady. Human beings are social creatures. We survived because we cooperated, not just because we fought. We formed communities, families, civilizations built on shared values. Shared values? Taloran's laugh sounded like a bird's screech. You can't even achieve peace on a single planet. You have hundreds of nations, all competing, all suspicious of each other. You speak of cooperation, but you prepare for war. Kevin tried again. Every species has conflicts. We're working to overcome ours. We've established a United Earth Council. We've eliminated most major conflicts. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. Trying is insufficient, Vexnor said coldly. The Assembly maintains peace among 47 species across thousands of worlds. We achieved this through strict protocols and careful management. We cannot allow a violent species to disrupt the order we have built. Daniel felt the situation slipping away. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a sentencing hearing. He looked around the chamber, studying the aliens. Most avoided his gaze. A few stared with open hostility. But one, an insect-like creature with multiple eyes, watched with what might have been curiosity instead of fear. What exactly are you proposing? Daniel asked. Vexnor's scaled face showed something that might have been satisfaction. Humanity will accept assembly oversight. All faster-than-light capable vessels will be registered and tracked. All expansion beyond your solar system will require assembly approval. All military research will be supervised by assembly inspectors. You will accept these terms, or Earth will be quarantined. Quarantined? Kevin's voice cracked. You mean blockaded? We mean protected. Vex. Nor corrected. Protected from yourselves, and from the dangers you might pose to others. The Assembly has maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years. We will not allow Deathworlders to threaten that peace. Laura stepped forward. Chancellor, may I ask a question? Vexnor tilted his head. Speak. How many species in the Assembly come from Class 10 worlds? Silence fell over the chamber. Vexnor's eyes narrowed. None. Class 9? None. Class 8? 2 species, both of which required extensive behavioral modification before acceptance. Laura nodded slowly. So? The highest category represented here, without modification, is Class 4? Class 7. The insect-like alien corrected. Its voice was surprisingly gentle, like wind chimes. My people, the Chithar Collective, evolved on a Class 7 world, though admittedly, it was barely Class 7. Mild weather, simple predators, abundant resources. Thank you, Laura said. And how long ago did your people achieve space travel? 12,000 years ago. Laura turned to address the entire assembly. 12,000 years of experience with spacefaring civilizations. 3,000 years of galactic peace. 47 species working together. That's impressive, truly. But in all that time, you've never encountered a species quite like humanity. We have encountered violent species before, Talarin snapped. We have dealt with them appropriately. How? Daniel asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Talarin's feathers ruffled. Some accepted peaceful integration. Others were contained until they learned cooperation. A few required more direct intervention. You destroyed them, Daniel said flatly. We protected the galaxy from them, Talarin corrected. As we will protect it from you, one way or another. Kevin looked like he might be sick. Laura's hands were shaking. Daniel felt cold rage building in his chest. They had come in peace, and they were being treated like animals that needed to be caged or put down. The insect-like alien, the Chithar, stood up. Chancellor Vexnor, if I may speak? Vexnor looked annoyed but nodded. The assembly recognizes Kirazel of the Chithar Collective. Kirazel moved with surprising grace, despite having 6 legs. She approached the humans, stopping a respectful distance away. I have been listening carefully to both sides. The evidence presented shows humanity is indeed violent. But it also shows something else. Resilience, adaptability, the capacity to survive impossible odds. That makes them more dangerous, not less, Talarin argued. Perhaps, Kirazel agreed. Or perhaps it makes them valuable. My people remember our own early history. We were not always peaceful. We fought territorial wars, competed for resources, knew the taste of conflict. But we learned. We grew. We became something better. Your world was Class 7, Vexnor said. These creatures come from Class 10. The comparison is meaningless. Is it? Kirazel turned to Laura. Dr. Bennett? You are a scientist, yes? A scholar of languages and cultures? Laura nodded. I am. Then perhaps you can explain something that puzzles me. We have studied your history as well. We see the wars. Yes. But we also see something else. Your species sends probes into space carrying messages of peace. You create art depicting alien life with wonder, not fear. You write stories about cooperation with beings you have never met. Why? Quote, Laura took a breath. Because we dream of something better. Yes. We fight. Yes, we've made terrible mistakes. But we also imagine peace. We tell stories about meeting aliens as friends, not enemies. We prepare for first contact by learning to be better than we were. Pretty words, Talarin scoffed. Deathworlders are skilled liars. They have to be, to survive their brutal home. We're also skilled truth-tellers, Daniel said. Let me tell you a truth, Chancellor. You're afraid of us. I understand that. We come from a world you can barely imagine. We're stronger than most species here because we had to be. We're more aggressive because our world demanded it. But you're making a mistake. And what mistake is that? Vexnor asked. You're judging us by our past instead of our potential. You're so focused on what we were that you can't see what we're trying to become. What you're trying to become is irrelevant if you destroy half the galaxy in the process, Talarin said. Kevin had been quiet, listening. Now he spoke up. Then test us. The chamber fell silent. Vexnor leaned forward. What? You don't trust us? Fine. We haven't earned that trust yet. So test us. Give us a challenge. Let us prove we're more than violent Deathworlders. Vexnor and Talarin exchanged glances. Kirazel's multiple eyes seemed to brighten with interest. What kind of test? Vex, Nor asked slowly. You decide, Kevin said. Give us a problem the Assembly faces. Let us try to solve it. If we succeed through violence or deception, quarantine Earth. But if we succeed through cooperation and wisdom, accept us as equals. This is foolish, Talarin said. Why waste time on tests when we already know what they are? Because fair judgment requires evidence, not assumptions, Kirazel said quietly. And because I am curious to see what humans will do when given a chance, instead of a cage. Vexnor sat back in his seat. His clawed hands drummed on the armrest. The chamber buzzed with alien voices debating in dozens of languages. Finally, Vexnor raised his hand for silence. Very well. The Assembly will devise a test. But understand this. Humans. If you fail, there will be no second chance. Earth will be quarantined for a minimum of 1,000 years. Your faster-than-light drives will be disabled. Your species will remain confined to your solar system until the Assembly determines you have evolved beyond your violent nature. Daniel felt the weight of that threat. 1,000 years. 50 generations of humans trapped in their own system. Never knowing what was out among the stars. Never having the chance to grow beyond Earth. We understand, Kevin said. What's the test? Vexnor's expression was unreadable. The Assembly has many problems, human. Most are political, requiring delicate negotiation between species with different values and needs. Some are economic, balancing resources across vast distances. But there is one problem we have failed to solve for 30 years. A problem that has defied every solution we have attempted. What problem? Laura asked. Vexnor stood. The hologram appeared again. But this time it showed different images. A beautiful planet with purple oceans and green skies. Cities of elegant architecture, people with 4 arms and gentle faces living in harmony. Then the images changed. The same planet. Burning, cities in ruins. Bodies in the streets. The gentle faces twisted in death. This was Kelthara, Vexnor said softly. A peaceful species, the most artistic culture the galaxy had ever known. 30 years ago, they were destroyed in a war between 2 Assembly factions. A war that should never have happened. A mistake that cost millions of lives. The hologram shifted again. Now it showed faces. Young aliens. Children when their world burned. Adults now. Their expressions were hard. Angry. Broken. These are the survivors. Vexnor continued. The children of Kelthara. Scattered across Assembly space. We have tried everything to help them. Therapy. Education. Financial support. New homes. Nothing works. They remain angry. Isolated. Some have turned to violence against the Assembly. They hate us for what we failed to prevent. Kirazel spoke up. Some young Keltharans have formed resistance groups. They commit acts of terrorism, trying to punish the Assembly for their lost world. We have responded with security forces, imprisonment, rehabilitation programs. All have failed. Vexnor looked directly at Kevin. This is your test, humans. Solve the problem of the Keltharans. Help them heal. Help them find peace. Do this without violence, without force, without the tools of Deathworlders. Do this, and perhaps you will prove you are more than what your world made you. Daniel felt the impossible weight of the challenge. An entire culture destroyed. Children orphaned and traumatized. 30 years of pain and anger. And the Assembly expected 3 humans to fix it? Laura met Daniel's eyes. She looked terrified. But she nodded. Kevin straightened his shoulders. We accept your test. The Keltharan refugee facility was located on the outer rim of Concord Prime. Daniel, Laura, and Kevin were escorted there by assembly guards who made it clear they expected the humans to fail. Taloran had even laughed when they left, saying he would prepare the quarantine protocols for Earth. The facility was clean, modern, and completely lifeless. White walls, efficient lighting, everything designed for function rather than comfort. It reminded Daniel of a prison, though the assembly called it a support center. 32 Keltharans live here, their escort explained. Her name was Nirash, a small purple-skinned alien with 3 eyes. She worked as a facility administrator and seemed exhausted. They have everything they need: food, shelter, entertainment systems, medical care. But they refuse to integrate. They refuse our help. How many facilities like this are there? Laura asked. 17 across assembly space. This one houses the most difficult cases, the ones who have been violent or disruptive. Kevin frowned. You're keeping the traumatized people separate from others? Isolating them? Nirash's expression suggested confusion. We are keeping dangerous individuals contained for everyone's safety. Is that not standard procedure? Daniel and Laura exchanged glances. The assembly had taken broken, angry people and locked them away. They had treated symptoms, not wounds. We'd like to meet them, Laura said. Nirash led them to a common area. It was a large room with tables, chairs, and view screens showing images of various worlds. But it felt empty, despite the dozen Keltharans scattered around. They sat alone, avoiding each other, staring at nothing. Keltharans were beautiful, in a fragile way. They had 4 arms, pale blue skin, and large eyes that seemed to hold oceans of sadness. Their faces were almost human-like, which made their expressions of pain even more heartbreaking. You can speak to them, Nirash said, but I warn you, they are not receptive to outsiders. Especially not to assembly representatives. We're not assembly, Kevin said. We're human. That will not matter to them. You are aliens. You are part of the system that failed to save their world. Nirash left them alone. The Keltharans had noticed the humans now. A few looked over with suspicion. One, a male with scars across his face, stood up and walked toward them. More counselors? His voice was bitter. More people who want to understand us? More therapists who will tell us our anger is not healthy? No, Laura said simply. We're not counselors. We're just people who wanted to meet you. The Keltharan's 4 eyes narrowed. Why? Because the assembly asked us to. And you do what the assembly asks? Like good servants? The Keltharan's voice dripped with contempt. Actually, the assembly kind of hates us, Daniel said. They think we're dangerous. They're testing us to see if we're worthy of joining their little club. You're the test. That got reactions. Several Keltharans turned to look. The scarred male tilted his head. We are a test? Yeah, Kevin said. We're supposed to help you heal. Make you happy and integrated. Prove that humans are peaceful and wise. He paused. The assembly thinks we'll fail. Why do you tell us this? Another Keltharan asked, a female with gray streaks in her hair. Because it's the truth, Laura said. And because if we're going to talk to you, we should be honest about why we're here. The scarred male studied them for a long moment. I am Sethral. What are your names? They introduced themselves. Sethral gestured to chairs. Sit. Tell us about these dangerous humans who are hated by the assembly. They sat. Daniel felt awkward, aware that every Keltharan in the room was watching now. Laura pulled out a small device and set it on the table. It projected a hologram of Earth. This is our world, she said. The assembly calls it a Class 10 death world. They think we're violent because Earth is brutal. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous animals, deadly diseases. We had to be tough to survive. Sethral leaned forward. And are you? Violent? Sometimes, Daniel admitted. We've fought wars, made terrible weapons, hurt each other in ways we're ashamed of. But we've also done other things. Laura changed the hologram. Now it showed images of Earth's art, music, architecture, the pyramids, the Taj Mahal, the Northern Lights, children playing, families laughing, people helping each other after disasters. We create, Laura said softly. We build. We love. We try to be better than our worst moments. The gray-haired Keltharan stood and walked closer. The assembly showed you our world's destruction to shame you, didn't they? Showed you as examples of what violence creates? Kevin nodded. They showed us everything bad we've ever done. Then they threatened to lock our entire species on our home planet for 1,000 years if we don't prove we're civilized enough for them. Sethral laughed. It was a harsh, broken sound. So the assembly uses our pain as a weapon against you. How fitting. They have used our pain for everything, except actually healing it. What do you mean? Laura asked. The gray-haired Keltharan sat down with them. My name is Lyra Esh. I was 12 when Kelthara burned. The assembly put me in a facility like this, on a different station. They gave me food, a bed, education. They taught me assembly languages. They trained me for jobs in assembly society, but they never asked what I needed. What did you need? Daniel asked quietly. Lyra Esh's eyes filled with tears. To grieve, to remember, to speak my language and hear my mother's songs, and tell stories about my father, to be Keltharan, not just another assembly citizen who lost her home. Sethral's voice was rough with emotion. The assembly wanted us to forget, to move on, to become productive members of their perfect society. They offered us therapy to process our trauma, jobs to keep us busy, entertainment to distract us. But they never offered us what we actually lost. Your culture, Laura said. Your identity. Yes. Sethral looked down at his 4 hands. I cannot remember my mother's face anymore. I was 7 years old when she died. The assembly has images of Kelthara, but they are locked in historical archives. We are not allowed to access them without supervision. They say it is for our psychological health. They say remembering will only cause us pain. Kevin looked horrified. They won't let you see pictures of your own world? They will, Lyra Esh said. With a counselor present. With therapeutic protocols. With careful management of our emotional responses. But not freely. Never freely. Our pain is a disorder to be managed, not a loss to be honored. Daniel felt anger rising in his chest. The assembly had taken these people's culture and locked it away. They had treated grief like a disease, instead of a natural response to unbearable loss. Laura was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. On Earth, we have a saying. When someone dies, we say they live on in our memories. We tell their stories. We teach their names to our children. We make sure they are not forgotten. That is beautiful, Lyra Esh said. But there are so few of us left. How long can we remember? How long before the last Keltharan dies, and our entire culture dies with them? Sethral stood abruptly. Why are you here, humans? Really? Did you come to offer more empty sympathy? More counseling? More attempts to make us fit into assembly society? Laura stood too. She looked Sethral directly in his eyes. We came because the assembly asked us to. But now that we're here, now that we've heard your story, I want to ask you something. What? What if your culture didn't have to die? What if there was a place where Keltharan language was spoken, where Keltharan art was made, where Keltharan children could learn their own history? Sethral's expression hardened. That place burned. It does not exist anymore. Not on Kelthara. Laura agreed. But it could exist somewhere else. The room had gone completely silent. Every Keltharan was staring at Laura now. What are you suggesting? Lyra Esh asked. Laura looked at Kevin and Daniel. They nodded. She turned back to the Keltharans. Earth, she said. Come to Earth. Not as refugees. Not as trauma victims who need to be managed. Come as teachers. Help us preserve your culture. Teach us your language, your art, your stories. We will build a place where Keltharan culture can live and grow. Sethral looked like he had been struck. Why would you do this? Because it's right. Daniel said. Because your culture deserves to survive. Because you deserve dignity. Not just therapy. You barely know us, another Kelthoran said. You have your own problems. The Assembly hates you. Why would you take on our burden? Kevin smiled sadly. Because we understand what it means to lose something precious. Humans have lost cultures too. We know what it feels like when something irreplaceable is gone forever. If we can help save yours, we should. Sethral sank back into his chair. His four hands were shaking. The Assembly will never allow it. The Assembly made us a deal, Laura said. If we help you heal, they have to accept humanity. They didn't specify how we help. Just that we do. Lyra Esh was crying openly now. You would do this? Create a place for Kelthoran culture on your violent death world? Yes, Laura said firmly. But only if you want it. This is your choice. Your culture. Your future. Sethral looked around the room at the other Kelthorans. Daniel saw something he hadn't seen before in their faces. Hope. Fragile. Barely there. But real. I want to see Earth. Sethral said quietly. I want to see this death world that creates people who offer sanctuary instead of management. You will, Laura promised. But first, we need your help. The Assembly thinks they know everything about Kelthara from their archives. But archives don't capture everything. We need you to teach us. Really teach us. Your language, your customs, your art, your stories. Everything that makes Kelthoran culture alive. Lyra Esh stood. When do we start? Now. Laura said. If you're willing. Sethral extended one of his four hands. Laura took it. His skin was cool and smooth, almost like silk. We are willing, he said. But humans, you must understand something. We have been broken by loss. We carry anger and pain. We will not be easy to work with. The Assembly has tried for 30 years to help us. What makes you think you will succeed where they failed? Daniel answered. Because the Assembly tried to fix you. We're not going to do that. We're just going to listen. And then we're going to help you save what can be saved. Sethral's eyes closed. A tear ran down his blue cheek. Then listen, he said. Listen to the story of Kelthara. Listen to what we lost. Listen to what we need to preserve. And they did. For hours, the humans sat with the Keltharans and listened. They heard stories of a beautiful world with purple oceans. They heard songs in a language that sounded like wind chimes. They learned about Keltharan art, which used living plants shaped into sculptures. They heard about festivals and traditions and family structures, and the humans wrote it all down. Every word, every memory, every piece of a dying culture that deserved to live. Outside the facility, assembly guards watched through cameras. They had expected violence or manipulation. Instead, they saw something they could not understand. They saw humans doing the simplest and hardest thing in the universe. They saw them care. 3 days had passed since the humans first met the Keltharans. The Assembly had given them 1 week to complete their test. Daniel watched the countdown with growing anxiety. They were running out of time. But something was changing. He could feel it. The Keltharan facility was no longer silent. Music played from the common areas. Keltharan songs that had not been heard for 30 years. Laura had brought instruments from the horizon. Simple things like flutes and drums. And the Keltharans were teaching them the rhythms of their lost world. Daniel stood in the doorway and watched Sethral teaching Kevin a Keltharan dance. It required 4 arms, which Kevin didn't have. So they had adapted it. Sethral was laughing, actually laughing. The scarred, angry alien who had greeted them with contempt was now moving with joy. Captain Morrison? Nirash, the facility administrator, approached him. She looked confused. I need to show you something. She led him to her office and pulled up monitoring data. These are the psychological evaluation scores for the residents. We track stress levels, emotional states, social interactions, standard procedure. Daniel looked at the graphs. I'm not a psychologist. What am I looking at? Improvement, Nirish said. Dramatic improvement. In 3 days, the residents have shown more positive emotional development than in the previous 3 years. Stress levels are down. Social interactions are up. Incidents of violence or self-harm have dropped to 0. That's good, right? It should be impossible. We have been using the most advanced therapeutic techniques in the assembly. We have specialists from a dozen species. We have medications, treatments, protocols developed over thousands of years. And 3 humans with no training accomplish in 3 days what we could not do in 30 years. She looked at him. How? Daniel thought about the question. We listened. That's all. We listened to what they needed, instead of telling them what they should need. Nirish sat down heavily. The assembly protocol is clear. Trauma victims require professional intervention, careful management, gradual exposure therapy, controlled emotional processing. We followed every guideline. Maybe the guidelines were wrong, but we are experts. We have degrees, certifications, thousands of years of collective experience. You are soldiers and diplomats. You have no psychological training. No, Daniel agreed. But we have experience with loss. Every human does. We know what it feels like when something precious is taken away. We know that sometimes people don't need experts. They need someone who cares. Before Nirish could respond, an alarm went off. She pulled up a communication screen. Vex Nor's scaled face appeared. Bring the humans to the assembly chamber immediately. We have received a petition that requires urgent consideration. Daniel's stomach dropped. What kind of petition? You will see. The connection cut off. Daniel went to find Laura and Kevin. They were in the common area with the Kelthorans, working on translating ancient texts. Laura had brought her linguistic software from the horizon, and the Keltherans were helping her document their language properly for the first time. We have to go, Daniel said. Assembly wants us. Now. Laura looked worried. Is something wrong? I don't know. Sethril stood up. We are coming with you. That might not be a good idea, Kevin said. It is an excellent idea. Lyra Esh said, standing as well. You are facing the assembly because of us. We will face them with you. Daniel wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in their eyes. The Kelthorans had been passive victims for 30 years. They were done being silent. All right, he said. But let me do the talking if things get difficult. They arrived at the assembly chamber to find it packed. Every seat was filled. Aliens from across the galaxy had come to witness whatever was about to happen. Daniel felt exposed standing in the center with the humans and Keltharans together. Vex Nor stood on his platform. The assembly has received an unusual petition. The Keltharans of Facility 7 have submitted a formal request to relocate to Earth. They wish to establish a cultural preservation center under human protection. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. Talorin stood immediately. This is absurd. Earth is not even a member of the assembly. They cannot offer protection or establish cultural centers. This is clearly manipulation by the humans to appear benevolent. Sethral stepped forward before anyone could stop him. No one manipulated us. The humans offered what the assembly never did. Dignity. Respect. The chance to save our culture instead of watching it die. You are traumatized, Taloran said dismissively. You are not thinking clearly. The humans have taken advantage of your emotional state. Do not speak to me about emotional states. Sethral's voice was cold. The assembly has managed my emotions for 30 years. Medicated them. Analyzed them. Controlled them. The humans did something different. They honored them. Vex Nor raised his hand. Sethral, the assembly understands your pain. We have provided everything necessary for your recovery. Everything except what we actually needed, Lyra Esh said. She moved to stand beside Sethral. You gave us shelter, food, therapy. But you locked away our culture like it was dangerous. You treated our grief like a disease. You wanted us to forget Kelthara and become generic assembly citizens. Kirazel, the Chithar representative, spoke up. The psychological protocols were designed by experts. We followed best practices. Best practices for whom? Liresh challenged. For the assembly? For making us easy to manage? Or for us? The chamber erupted in debate. Aliens argued in dozens of languages. Some supported the Keltharans. Others called them ungrateful. Taloran demanded the humans be removed from the station immediately. Laura stepped forward. May I speak? Vexnor looked irritated but nodded. The assembly recognizes Dr. Laura Bennett of Earth. Laura's voice was steady despite the hundreds of alien eyes watching her. The assembly asked humanity to help the Keltharans heal. We are doing that, not through force or manipulation, but through something simpler. Recognition. Recognition of what? Vexnor asked. Of their right to grieve. Their right to remember. Their right to be Keltharan. Laura looked around the chamber. The assembly is advanced in so many ways. Your technology is amazing. Your organization spans thousands of worlds. You have achieved peace across 47 species. But you made one critical mistake with the Keltharans. And what mistake is that? Talorin asked sharply. You tried to heal them by making them forget. You thought if you removed the pain, you would remove the trauma. But pain is not the trauma. Pain is the proof that what was lost mattered. Kirazel leaned forward. Explain. Laura took a breath. On Earth, we have a concept. When someone we love dies, we hold funerals. We gather together and tell stories about them. We cry. We hurt. Because the pain honors what we lost. If we didn't feel pain, it would mean the person didn't matter. The Keltharans have been in pain for 30 years, because their entire world mattered. Their culture, their families, their home, all of it mattered. And the assembly tried to manage that pain away instead of honoring it. We honored it, Vexnor said. We built memorials. We preserved archives. You built museums, Sethril corrected. Cold places where our culture is displayed like artifacts. We don't need museums. We need our culture to be alive, to be practiced, to be taught to new generations. There are no new generations, Taloran said. You are the last Keltharans. Your species is functionally extinct. Preserving your culture is an exercise in futility. The words hit like a physical blow. Several Keltharans flinched. Daniel saw tears on Lyra Esh's face. Kevin spoke up, his voice tight with anger. That is the most horrific thing I have ever heard. These people are standing right in front of you. And you just told them their entire existence is futile. I speak truth, Taloran said. Uncomfortable truth, but truth nonetheless. The Keltharan species will be gone in 50 years. Perhaps less. Preserving their culture serves no purpose. It serves them, Daniel said. That's enough. For a Death Worlder, perhaps, Talorin shot back. But the assembly operates on logic and efficiency. We cannot waste resources on preserving a dead culture. Sethral's four hands clenched into fists. Then let us go. Let us go to Earth. Let the humans waste their resources if they choose to. You will be free of your burden. It is not that simple, Vexnor said. You are assembly residents. Your welfare is our responsibility. Your responsibility has been a prison, Lyra Esh said quietly. Please, let us go. The chamber fell silent. Daniel could feel the weight of the moment. This was it. The assembly would either allow the Keltharans their choice or confirm that they were nothing more than managed problems. Kirazel stood. I wish to share something. My people, the Chithar, have ancient texts about our early history. Before we achieved space travel, we had wars. Terrible wars. At the end of our last great conflict, the losing side was defeated completely. Their cities destroyed. Their leaders executed. And the victors, my ancestors, faced a choice. She paused, her multiple eyes reflecting the chamber lights. They could eliminate the survivors, ensuring the defeated culture could never rise again. Or they could show mercy. My ancestors chose mercy. But not just mercy. They chose preservation. They helped the defeated rebuild their cities. They preserved their language and traditions. They turned enemies into citizens. What is your point? Talarin asked. My point is that the strength of a civilization is not measured by its ability to defeat enemies or solve problems efficiently. It is measured by how it treats the broken and the lost. For 3,000 years, the Assembly has maintained peace through protocols and management. But the humans offer something we have forgotten. Compassion. Compassion is weakness, Talarin said. No, Kirazel said firmly. Compassion is strength. The humans are from the most dangerous world any of us have encountered. They evolved in conditions that should have made them into pure predators, but instead, they developed the capacity to care about beings they have never met. They offer sanctuary to a dying culture simply because it is the right thing to do. That is not weakness, that is power we cannot comprehend. Vex Nor was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. The human test was to help the Keltherans heal. The method was not specified. Dr. Bennett, do you believe your approach is working? Yes, Laura said. But healing is not the same as fixing. The Keltherans will always carry their loss. But they can carry it with dignity instead of shame. They can honor their past instead of being forced to forget it. And if we allow them to go to Earth, what then? Then we build a place where Keltheran culture can survive. We teach their language in our schools. We learn their art. We preserve their history. And maybe, in a few generations, there will be humans who speak Keltheran as fluently as English. The culture will change. Yes, it will mix with ours, but it will live. Vex Nor looked at Sethral. Is this what you want? Sethral met his gaze. It is what we need. The Assembly has cared for our bodies for 30 years. The humans are the first to care for our souls. Very well, Vex Nor said. The Assembly will vote. The Assembly chamber transformed into a voting floor. Lights appeared above each species representative, ready to show their choice. Green for approval, red for denial. The fate of both the Keltherans and humanity would be decided in moments. Daniel stood with his team and the Keltherans. His heart pounded. If the Assembly voted no, Earth would be quarantined. Humanity would be trapped in their solar system for 1,000 years, and the Keltherans would remain prisoners of well-meaning protocols. All representatives may cast their votes, Vex Nor announced. Lights began to appear. The first was red. Talarin's Sketh Unity rejected the proposal. No surprise there. More red lights followed. Species that valued order and protocol over individual choice. But then green lights started appearing too. Kirazel's Chithar collective voted yes. Other species followed. The chamber filled with color. A galaxy divided. Laura gripped Daniel's arm. It's close. Too close. Sethral watched with all 4 hands pressed to his chest. Lyra Esh had tears running down her face. The other Keltharans stood frozen. Barely breathing, the voting continued. Red. Green. Red. Green. Green. Red. The lights multiplied until the chamber looked like a constellation of colored stars. Finally, the last vote was cast. The lights held steady. An assembly computer began calculating the results. The vote is complete, Vex Nor announced. 24 species in favor. 22 species against. 1 abstention. Kevin grabbed Laura's shoulder. We won. We actually won. By 2 votes, Daniel said quietly. 2 votes out of 47 species. But it was enough. The Keltharans were free to choose their own path. Sethral turned to the humans. His voice broke as he spoke. Thank you. For 3 days, you gave us something we thought was lost forever. Hope. Hope. Before Daniel could respond, Talarin stood up. This vote is a mistake. The Assembly will regret allowing Deathworlders into our civilization. You have proven nothing except that you are skilled manipulators. We proved we can listen, Laura said calmly. We proved we can care about beings different from ourselves. We proved that strength can be gentle. Pretty words, Talarin said. But I have studied your species extensively. You are predators wearing the mask of diplomacy. Sooner or later, your true nature will emerge. Kevin started to argue. But Vexnor raised his hand. Enough. The vote is concluded. The Keltherons of Facility 7 are granted permission to relocate to Earth. Humanity has passed the Assembly's test. The weight of those words hit Daniel like a wave. They had done it. Against all odds, with the entire Assembly watching for them to fail. They had succeeded. However, Vexnor continued, and Daniel's relief turned cold. Passing one test does not grant full Assembly membership. Humanity will be accepted as provisional members. You will have access to Assembly space and resources, but with limitations. Your expansion will be monitored. Your military capabilities will be tracked. You will report to the Assembly Council quarterly. Basically probation, Kevin muttered. Basically survival, Daniel whispered back. Do you accept these terms? Vexnor asked. Ambassador Harper stepped forward. We do. Earth accepts provisional membership in the Galactic Assembly. We understand the Assembly's caution. We will work to earn full trust. See that you do, Vexnor said. Then, surprisingly, his expression softened slightly. I will admit. Humans. You surprised me. I expected you to attempt a military solution or political manipulation. Instead, you offered something I did not anticipate. Genuine compassion. That's our weapon, Laura said. The one you never saw coming. The ability to care about others, even when it is difficult. Even when it costs us something. Taloran made a sound of disgust and left the chamber. Several other species representatives followed him. But many remained. And Daniel saw something in their faces he hadn't seen before. Curiosity instead of fear. Interest instead of contempt. Kirazel approached the humans. Dr. Bennett, I have a question. Of course. Your species evolved on a world of constant danger. Your survival depended on being stronger, faster, more aggressive than the threats around you. How did you develop empathy in such conditions? Logic suggests a death world would create pure predators, not compassionate beings. Laura smiled. That's the thing about humans. We are predators. We're also incredibly social. We survived Earth, not just by being tough, but by working together. A single human alone would die quickly on Earth, but humans in groups, humans who care about each other and cooperate, can survive anything. Empathy isn't, despite our evolution. It's because of it. Kirazel's eyes seemed to brighten. Fascinating. Compassion as a survival trait, rather than a luxury of peaceful worlds. Exactly. We care because we have to. Because without each other, we're nothing. The assembly chamber began to empty. The dramatic moment had passed. Now came the practical work of arranging the Keltherans' relocation and establishing Earth's provisional status. Daniel found himself standing with Sethral and Lyra Esh as the crowds dispersed. What happens now? Sethral asked. Now we go home, Daniel said. To Earth. We'll need to prepare a place for you. Somewhere with enough space for all the Keltherans who want to come. We'll need to set up educational programs, cultural centers, living facilities. That will take time, Lyra Esh said. We have time, Laura assured her. And we have people who will help. The moment Earth hears about this, about you, there will be volunteers, artists who want to learn Keltheron techniques, linguists who want to study your language, teachers who want to preserve your stories. Why? Sethral asked. Why would they care about an alien culture they have never encountered? Kevin laughed. Because humans are weird like that. We get excited about preserving things. We have people who spend their entire lives saving dying languages that only a few dozen people speak. We have organizations dedicated to protecting cultures at risk of disappearing. You're not asking us to do something strange. You're asking us to do something we already love doing. Sethral shook his head in wonder. Your species is very unusual. You have no idea, Daniel said with a grin. Over the next 2 days, preparations were made. The horizon was loaded with Keltheran passengers, and their few possessions. Other Kelthoran facilities across assembly space sent messages. More survivors wanted to come to Earth. What started as 32 individuals became hundreds. The assembly watched with mixed reactions. Some species were supportive. Others remained suspicious. But they had voted. And the decision was binding. On the last day before departure, Vexnor requested a private meeting with the human delegation. They met in a small conference room, just the Chancellor and the 3 humans. "I want to understand something," Vexnor said without preamble. "You risk your entire species' future for a handful of traumatized aliens." "Why?" "Because it was the right thing to do," Kevin said simply. "But the risk, if you had failed, Earth would have been quarantined for a millennium. Your people would never have known the stars. That did not concern you?" Daniel leaned forward. "Of course it concerned us. We were terrified. But we couldn't let that fear make us into something we're not. If we had abandoned the Keltharans just to save ourselves, we would have proven everything you believed about Deathworlders. We would have become the monsters you expected." Vexnor was quiet for a moment. "I have led the assembly for 40 years. I have negotiated treaties between species with fundamentally different values. I have resolved conflicts that seemed impossible to solve. But in all that time, I have never encountered a species quite like yours. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Laura asked. "I do not know yet," Vexnor admitted. "You are dangerous. That much is clear. But perhaps not in the way we feared. You are dangerous because you make others question what they believe. You are dangerous because you offer alternatives to established protocols. You are dangerous because you care when caring is difficult." "We'll take that as a compliment," Kevin said. "See that you earn it," Vexnor said. "Provisional membership is not full acceptance. You will be watched closely. Many species still fear you. But you have allies now too. Kirazel spoke in your favor after the vote. Others are interested in working with you. Use that wisely." "We will," Daniel promised. Vexnor stood to leave, then paused. "One more thing. The Keltharans. When you establish their cultural center on Earth, send me reports on their progress. I would like to know if your approach truly works in the long term." "You could visit," Laura suggested. "See for yourself." Vexnor's expression was unreadable. "Perhaps I will." The Horizon departed Concord Prime 2 hours later. The ship was crowded now, filled with Keltharans and their belongings. The common areas echoed with voices speaking in musical tones, the language of a people who refused to let their culture die. Daniel stood on the bridge watching the stars. Amy Rodriguez, who had stayed with the ship the entire time, joined him. "So we did it," she said. "We're assembly members. Sort of, Daniel agreed. "Provisional, monitored, on probation. But yes, we did it. By saving a bunch of alien refugees instead of showing off our weapons or our technology. Apparently compassion is more impressive than missiles." Amy laughed. "Who knew? The galaxy expected us to be violent Deathworlders, and we show up with empathy instead." "We are violent Deathworlders," Daniel corrected. "We're just also capable of caring. Those things aren't mutually exclusive." Laura entered the bridge carrying a datapad. "You need to see this. Messages from Earth. The news about the Keltharans got out. We're getting thousands of volunteer applications. People wanting to help build the cultural center. Artists, teachers, construction workers, linguists, even children asking if they can learn Keltharan in school." Kevin joined them, grinning. "I told Sethrel people would care. He didn't believe me. Now he's overwhelmed by all the messages of support." "How's he handling it?" Daniel asked. "He's crying," Kevin said. "Happy tears, this time. He said he spent 30 years being told his culture was dead. Now he has humans fighting for the chance to keep it alive." Through the viewport, Earth appeared in the distance. Home. A dangerous, beautiful, deadly world that had created a dangerous, beautiful, complicated species. "You know what I just realized?" Amy said. "The assembly wanted to test if we were civilized enough to join them, but we didn't become what they wanted. We stayed exactly what we are: messy, emotional, caring humans from a death world. And they accepted us anyway, Laura said. Some of them, at least. Some is enough, Daniel said. We have a foot in the door. Now we just have to prove we deserve to stay. The ship moved closer to Earth. In the passenger areas, Keltherans watched through windows, seeing humanity's home for the first time. Their new home, the death world that had produced the only species willing to save their dying culture. Sethral appeared on the bridge. Captain Morrison, may I speak? Of course. I have been thinking about what the Assembly said, about humans being dangerous. They were right, you know. Daniel tensed slightly. What do you mean? You are dangerous. But not because you are violent. You are dangerous because you change things. You challenge the way things have always been done. You offer hope, where others offer management. You treat problems as people instead of protocols. Sethral looked out at Earth. The Assembly maintained their perfect order for 3,000 years. I think you humans are about to disrupt that order completely. Is that a bad thing? Kevin asked. Sethral smiled. It was the first genuine smile Daniel had seen from him. No. I think it is exactly what the galaxy needs. Order is safe. But change is how things grow. The Assembly forgot how to grow. They forgot how to see people instead of problems. You remembered. Or maybe you never forgot. Laura put a hand on Sethral's shoulder. We're just doing what feels right. Helping where we can. Listening when others need to be heard. Now, that is your weapon, Sethral said quietly. The one the Assembly never expected. Not technology. Not violence. Not even intelligence. Your weapon is that you see others as worthy of dignity. Even aliens. Even enemies. Even broken refugees from a dead world. Everyone deserves dignity, Daniel said. That's not a weapon. That's just being human. Then perhaps, Sethral said. The galaxy needs to learn to be more human. The horizon entered Earth's orbit. Below, the blue and green world turned slowly. Beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. A death world that had birthed dreamers. Predators who chose compassion. Warriors who preferred peace. First contact was meant for diplomacy. And humanity had revealed a weapon beyond the Assembly's imagination. Not bombs, or ships, or superior technology. Something simpler and infinitely more powerful. The ability to care. The choice to help. The strength to be gentle. And the galaxy would never be the same. Months later, the Keltheran Cultural Center opened in the mountains of Colorado. The building was designed by both human and Keltheran architects, blending Earth materials with Keltheran aesthetic principles. Classes began immediately. Humans learning Keltheran language. Keltherans teaching their traditional arts. Children from both species playing together in gardens planted with purple flowers from preserved Keltheran seeds. The Assembly sent observers. They wrote reports analyzing the experiment, but their reports could not capture the important moments. A Keltheran elder teaching a human child an ancient song. A human artist learning to shape living plants into sculptures. Sethral standing in the garden, listening to Keltheran music played by human musicians, tears of joy running down his face. Other Assembly species began to take notice. A message arrived from a small, nearly extinct species, asking if Earth would help preserve their culture too. Then another message. And another. The humans said yes, every time. Vexnor, watching from Concord Prime, realized something that both worried and intrigued him. The Assembly had spent 3,000 years maintaining order by managing problems. The humans were transforming the galaxy by recognizing people. Kirazel visited Earth 6 months after the Cultural Center opened. She toured the facility, met the Keltharans, watched humans and aliens working side by side. Before she left, she spoke to Laura. You were right, Kirazel said. Compassion is a weapon, perhaps the most powerful weapon in the universe, because it transforms enemies into allies. It turns fear into trust. It builds bridges where others see only walls. We're just sharing what we have, Laura said. Space, resources, knowledge. We have enough for everyone. Kirazel's multiple eyes gleamed. That is the truly revolutionary idea. The assembly operates on scarcity. Limited resources carefully divided. You operate on abundance. Enough for everyone if we choose to share. Will the assembly learn? Laura asked. Kirazel looked at the children playing in the garden. Human and Kelthoran together, creating something new. The assembly is already learning. Whether they admit it or not. Because you have shown us something we forgot. Civilization is not measured by how we control others. It is measured by how we lift them up. She returned to Concord Prime and gave her report. It was not what the assembly expected. It was a call for change. A suggestion that perhaps the Deathworlders had something to teach the rest of the galaxy. Some species listened, others resisted. But the conversation had begun. And on Earth, in a cultural center nestled in the mountains, a Kelthoran child spoke their first words in the language of their ancestors. A language that was supposed to die. A culture that was supposed to fade into history, but it lived. Because humans cared enough to keep it alive. That was humanity's weapon. That was their gift to the galaxy. The simple, radical act of caring.